All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Anyone who is listening or watching in. This is the Committee on the Department of Administration here at Dunn County. We are meeting in room 54 or 60. I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying 54. Thank you for the correction, Chris. We are now in 54 in the county. You're in 60 of the county. I'm not going to get rid of that. County Government Center here in Menominee. Call the roll shows that we have two supervisors who are missing. They're both excused. Ms. Bashan and Ann Vogel are both out of town on other business. So we do have a quorum with Supervisor Story, Supervisor Bauer, and myself here. Approval of the meeting minutes. Our last meeting took place here in this room, February 27th. Of 2025. Mr. Bauer would move. Supervisor Story would second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you much. Staff reports. There are a number of county staff departments that report to this committee. Administration department, our human resources, criminal justice collaboration, our treasurer, our IT department, corp counsel, and our county clerk. We have received written reports along with financial reports from all of those departments. Anyone here have questions or on any of the reports?
I do have
Supervisor Bauer.
on CJCC. I see you're eliminating 6 people on your voting. Is for non-attendance? Is that what it was for? Can you explain more about that?
Good afternoon. Thank you for the question. Yes, over the years, the CJCC grew by members. We added a member here, member there throughout the years. So we were up to 22 voting members. And this past year, we had difficulty reaching quorum with our larger meetings where all 22 were expected to be present and participate. So we looked at meeting attendance and the frequency that we were asking people to attend, and kind of came up with a list of people that aren't attending based on their maybe other commitments or other obligations. So there was a motion at the executive meeting to reduce by 6 members. That would include the Judiciary and Law Chair, Public Health, the City Administrator, the City Mayor. That's 4. Let's see who else. You don't remember, Chris? Yeah. But child support, victim witness was on the list, but I think they were requested to stay on. So the executive agreed to reducing the number because then is really looked at efficiencies and the core criminal justice functions. And for those that really need to attend, because I'm sure others would rather not attend, but they're critical to what we do. So we really wanted to focus on those that really had primary criminal justice roles to play. City administrator, city mayor, we have this, the chief of police attending. So does the administrator really need to attend? Does the, mayor really need to attend? So these are just proposals. It will go to the full council in May for their full approval or adjustment. I think that we might have some adjustments before then. People that don't want to be excluded from the CJCC, but for us to operate and do business, we need people to attend, and that's the bottom line.
You said you couldn't get a quorum. I mean, you don't all have to be there for a quorum, but you just want them all there at one time once, maybe? Is that
Even having 13 of 22 members.
Oh, it's getting hard.
Or 12 of 22 members could be challenging. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. All right.
Can I continue?
Yeah, please, Mr. Ball.
A lot of the financials I see, there's a lot of them that are in the negative. I mean, I got ERP, TJC. Are you all looking for grants? Is that why they're all a little bit behind, just waiting for money to come? IT had one. I think there's just all one general.
Yeah, it's just so early in the year.
Okay.
I mean, we run them, and in reality, we run them because you can look at them, and if they're questions be answered. But the reality is, for us to even get close to starting to get you, accurate projections is probably June and July.
Okay, I figured that's probably what it was, but when they're in the negative, it should, why, I guess.
Yeah,
But,
no, exactly.
thank you.
Anyone else? Sheila?
I'm good.
All right. I have one. We had an equity, a pay adjustment that was made to one of our associates. Seems like that position has not been around that long. In terms of at least title. Jenna, maybe you could fill us in a little, I guess, not that it isn't justifiable, but I guess when a position hasn't been available for that long a period, why did we miss it so much in the beginning, or has their duties changed?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. This is a new position to the county as of January of 2024. It's also a new position in a lot of other organizations. And so we were a little, I guess, ahead of the curve on implementing and creating that type of position here at Dunn County. But what that meant was that there were not a lot, if any, comparable positions to be able to feel confident in the placement as far as market and pay grade. So we had conducted an analysis with the third party compensation consultant, and because other organizations are also adding this same type of position, I think most folks are hearing about training and development with the labor shortage. And so now there are comparables, and we found that where our position is currently placed is below average. We're in the under the 50th percentile of the average starting rate. So that adjustment is directly in relation to market comparables.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yep, sure does.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of questioned it, and then I also got a phone call and I looked and said, well, yeah, that's 8+%, and maybe we should at least this way, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not against that. It's just a matter that being it was so new, I thought, did we change the position and not really change the title?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can add too, really, our neighbors are adding these positions, and we want to retain our
Staff.
very well qualified talent development program manager. That I would ask if you're open to inviting her up to provide some information about the Fierce Conversations training that I've been
Yeah.
reporting on each month. And so I thought, maybe you might be thinking, well, what is this Fierce Conversations training? And so Sarah Stansberry, our talent development program manager, is prepared to give you a little bit of a summary on what that is and what we've done here at Dunn County and what we will continue to do with that program, if you're open to it.
All right. Anyone have an objection from the board? All right, then let's hear from Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm Sarah Stansberry. I think I've had the chance to meet most of you, but I am the talent development person here at Dunn County, so I appreciate your time today. So, Fierce Conversations, Fierce is a company, and that company offers a curriculum for leaders. And that curriculum is really around different types of conversations. So it's a framework for how to have them. We heard of Fierce Conversations by way of UW Stout, actually. We were invited to one of their trainings back in, I think, 2022. And we were really impressed with it. And we thought, we need to get this here. This is really, really powerful stuff. And over time, we've shown, I think, to ourselves that this is good and we need to keep pushing forward. So we did the employee satisfaction survey last May, and a lot of the feedback areas where we see we can grow a little bit has to do with areas that this curriculum directly addresses. So those are things like the statements on the survey were, my manager holds employees accountable. My manager successfully handles conflict. I have regular check-ins. I'm getting useful feedback. So we know that this specific curriculum talks directly to that. So the crux of Fierce, or kind of the thing that it hangs on, is that while no single conversation is guaranteed to change the trajectory of a career, a company, a relationship, or a life, any single conversation can. And the idea is that conversations are the work of leaders, and conversations are the workhorses of organizations. What gets talked about, how it gets talked about, who's at the table, that directly impacts what gets done and what doesn't get done. So the goal is that by the end of going through Fierce Conversations through this program, one conversation with someone who knows this stuff and knows how to implement it is worth having 10 with someone else. So we hope that that's how powerful it is. So this is a little bit small, but you can see that these are they're called modules within Fierce, and this is what Fierce covers. So there's a foundational course that really speaks to their kind of key points, but then there are also these other modules that talk about how do you have a conversation with your team? How do you have conversations about accountability, about feedback, about, if you need to confront someone, how do you actually go about doing that? And Fierce is always coming out with new programs. This year they came out with an emotional intelligence program, which is very important to leaders, for leaders to be successful. They also came out with, so resilience is new to Fierce within the last, I would say maybe 6 months. And then negotiations is actually called influence now, and it's really geared more toward salespeople. So it wouldn't be super applicable here. But they are always coming out with new tools that are helpful for folks. So this is what we've done at Dunn County. In 2023, there were about 70 managers who went through an all-day Fierce training, and we did that over at the Judicial Center. And we brought in an outside facilitator for that who was really good, and also it's expensive to do it that way. But we had really good participation, and we did hear good feedback from that being useful for people. One of the things that is always a challenge with training is, okay, you go to the training, now what? How are you going to keep that alive? How are you going to implement what you learned? So we knew we needed to do something to keep that at the forefront. So in 2024 and 2025, what we did is we had cohorts. Fierce cohorts is what we called them, and they were voluntary. So managers could sign up to participate in a cohort. It was over the course of 9 months, so it ran from June until February. They just graduated, and they stuck with the same group through those whole 9 months. And each month they would have a virtual training to do on their own, and that was about 2 hours. And then they would come together and do about 2 hours of discussion and networking. And again, that like finessing of figuring out, what do I do with this? How do I implement this? And if you add up all that training, that number of people and the amount of hours that they spent in classroom and out of classroom, that's over 900 hours total that our managers did. And I think that's really awesome. So I say bravo to the people who really committed to it and did it. We had one group that really gelled together, and these were people from like highway and HR and finance and the medical examiner all over the organization, which that was part of the beauty of it. And by the end of it, they said, we don't want to go. We love each other. We don't want to stop meeting. And so that was really cool to see them have those outcomes and breakthroughs. So we did do an assessment after the 9 months to figure out, what did leaders learn? What did they take from this? And how can we make it better? So leaders say that they learned how to give and receive feedback effectively. We know that, you know, we know that this isn't rocket science, right? Giving and receiving feedback is important, but there's a way to do it that's impactful, and there's a way to do it that really isn't. And we also know that employees who get regular feedback, this is a Gallup statistic, are 3.5 times more engaged at work. So when we think about that retention piece, this is a super important skill for leaders to have. Leaders also said they learned how to communicate with intention. So when I talked about those different modules, those different types of conversations, there are some kind of step-by-step, I don't want to call them scripts because they're really tools that people can use. If I need to confront someone, what are the exact steps that I need to do to make that be a successful conversation? So that's really super important. Asking the right questions, getting really to the heart of things. And then lastly, coaching and developing. So we know that we have a lot of managers who are early in their career, and it's important to equip people and make it scalable so that people are running alongside their manager and there's no bottlenecking. On the other end of the spectrum, we've got, managers who are close to retirement, and we need to equip people for succession planning. So that development piece is really crucial. Beers talks about how conversations, the quality of your conversations, directly relates to the quality of the relationship. And that ultimately equals your culture. So if you are having shallow, surface level conversations, you probably kind of have a shallow relationship, and your culture probably isn't that great. Flip that. If you're really getting to the heart of it, if you can talk about the real things, you can have a real relationship. You can get the real stuff done. And so I think, we've talked a lot about, like, how do we infuse this? How do we make sure that this is who we are and who we want to be? And that's the importance of why we're doing it and why we've invested so much time into it. So when we look at 2025, here's the plan. We are going to have in-person manager trainings. So like I said, there was a virtual component last time. This time we're going to do those workshops in person. There's a lot to be gained by going through that with someone and being able to workshop and practice those conversations. We're going to offer them more often and not in a cohort model. And we hope to offer it in cohorts again. But right now, where we are with ERP, what I heard from some folks was, I really want to do this, but I can't commit to 9 months. I really, that feedback module, that would be really helpful to me. I need that, but I'm a pit lead or I'm in a pit crew and I just can't commit. So we hope this will be more accessible to people. We also know that we are kind of changing our performance management system and how we do performance evaluation and assessment. And so we want to give managers these tools. as often as possible. We are also going to have quarterly, we're calling them fireside chats. So a chance for graduates to come back together to talk about, again, how they're keeping it alive and to network with one another, kind of break out of silos. And then we are going to be able to offer that here rather than pulling in an outside presenter. There is it's a train the trainer program. So Fierce, the company, teaches people at other companies how to do this. And we have 2 HR team members who have gone through this or are going through this, I guess, myself and Sadie Bigged. And it's about a 70-hour process. It's been this month that we did it, and it's been intense to say the least. So there's, a classroom portion. We've met people from all over the world. There are people from the UK in this program. It's cool. And so we're going to hopefully see some cost savings from that. And we've learned a lot about some best practices for implementing it here and doing it the best that we can. So that may or may not have been way more than you wanted to know about Fierce. I won't take up too much more time, but I'm wondering what questions you have, if any.
Yeah, Sheila.
Yes, thank you. Great presentation. Wondering, first of all, if I could get that online, so I could see that online. I would like to see that.
Mhm.
And is the resiliency, so you do the resiliency training, or is,
So we haven't done that here. It's a newer one.
Yeah.
That came out after we started the cohorts, and there
Okay.
wasn't an online version of it. I know, clear as mud, right? But I think my hope is that eventually we can do that. And I think that also my hope is that eventually some of this, I really think can be offered to employees and not just managers.
Okay.
Resilience being one of them.
uh-huh,
The foundations course being one of them, right? They have conversations too. So
yeah, I did resiliency training in the school district of Menominee. And I remember one of the funny things about it was that they'd say, okay, take a towel, fold the towel. And you would see how some people would fold it one way and some people would fold it another way. And then, it was dealing with it that way, but it was very good. When they do this online, this 2 hour, are they paid for doing it online? Is all training paid?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And then they have to sign up on it, so you see that they've done it.
So there's a learning platform that Fierce has so we can see who's done what and
Mhm.
exactly where they are in the module. So, which is really nice because sometimes people get stuck or they have questions and they can stop it and come back to it, which is really nice too.
That's exciting.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, just one. You talked about, your findings or your, scoring or whatever of your, our own in-house satisfaction survey. Do you find that people who are employees who, I guess would say, either number one, I'm not getting feedback, or number one, I don't think we're all being treated equally, are they tend to be more of the employees who've been here longer? Or-
Yeah, I haven't done that breakdown.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm not sure. And I was part of the training program at Walmart, and I found that as we started, with shortage becoming a thing with labor and a lot of turnover, you also have a lot of turnover in management. As the company started coming in and saying, well, gee, we got a lot of really good people at Menominee that's off from a different position, and we started losing people, that way too. And so then now you have a new batch of managers, new batch of, people, and nobody starts out, you know, running wide open.
Mhm.
And so that was part of it. And then new employees who people were giving a little more slack to, so to speak, because they were new and we had so many new people. And so the people who had been there said, well, I'd have never got away with that, or I'd have never, just gotten a warning. I would have been, whatever. So, just kind of wondering if that's the thing. And it was a thing we had to address. It got to the point where, we have people just, coming up to me and saying they finally done it. They finally, made a decision that I'm out of here,
Mhm.
you know, I'm not gonna put up with anymore or whatever. And so it was, you know, it took some talking to keep some experienced people around. Just kind of wondering, you know, I know it's one thing we don't want to fall into, but it's almost impossible when you get a lot of turnover. Good
We
luck. Thank you.
We see that a lot with the performance management piece, and that's a whole nother conversation. But part of what we're reworking right now is to make sure there is that consistency so that people feel that way.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
One more comment, because Sarah wouldn't brag about herself, but she talked about how she's going through the certification process to facilitate these moving forward, which will honestly, I think it was $15,000 probably to do the in-person training with the facilitator that flew here, I think from Arkansas. Really expensive. The cost for the certification process for 2 people on our team was $4,000. And then we will not have obviously a facilitator fee and lodging. And so it's a really big cost savings. But all that to say, I think today was like the final step in that process for her. And so she's crossing the finish line really as we speak. And so kudos to her. I'm really proud to have her on our team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Very nice presentation, Sarah. Thank you. All right. Anything else? I have nothing else. All right. All right, we'll move on. Consideration for actions to be taken by the committee administration. 6A, review our vouchers from 2/1 of 25 to 2/28 of 25. Questions or concerns about any items on the voucher list? Mr. Bauer. Oh, okay, there we go.
Go ahead, yes.
All right, we'll hear from our CFO.
Here, some more flyers for you, some stuff to read.
Thank you.
On a different topic, here, maybe to this one, audit policy. Okay. So. Your page reference, I know you guys always have your unique way of how you reference, but I printed just the voucher itself, so I'm just going to narrow it down to the department. Okay, so when I reference to, let's say, risk management, I don't know what page you have that on. Okay. Yeah, first page. Right, okay, well, great, that's the one I have some notes on for you. So that is, we had a collision with a squad car versus deer. So that's what that one is all about. The other items I wanted to highlight that some of those high dollar amounts, you've already seen them on POs. But there's also maybe 3 that say no vendor. And some of them are really small. And one of them is on page, I want to say, 2, 3, I'm on 3rd page, which is child support agency. So there's 2 charges that are for not one-time vendor. And those are charges for Experian inquiry, which is Experian, which is the credit reporting. Thank you. And then there's the $50 charge, and that's for training. It was called Director's Dialogue Training. And then I'm going to skip a page and go to the following page that is on district attorneys. So district attorney also had $150 one-time vendor, and that is really paying for copies to Ashland County. And I will go to next page, just on your radar. It looks like there's double payment for American Tower Corporation. Those are not duplicate. One is for February and one is for March. Okay. And then I'll go one page. And there's one under patrol. Dollar amount for one-time vendor for 2,183. And what that is, that's a reimbursement to the sheriff. He purchased and okay, I'm gonna do my best to describe this widget. But it's a solar high definition sonar, yes, that they use to identify human remains or evidence, other evidence in the water. And the sheriff purchased it because if he used his personal account, he got a $400 discount. So he saved the county money, but the caveat is he had to do it on his own card, and that is our way of reimbursing it to him. So that's what that is. Let's see, what other notes do I have? Oh, it's one item at the, no, not the treasurer, oh my gosh. Clerk of, no, county clerk. So county clerk had an expense there, and just FYI, that was for the election counting. The company was to send that bill in 24. But whatever bottlenecks they had, that invoice didn't get till later, till this year. But that was part of the carry forward to cover that expense. Okay. And that's all I have as far as my notes, but I have a lot more notes. And I'm hopeful that if those questions that you have is covered here.
Okay.
So I'll stay here if you have additional ones.
Okay, yeah, Sheila, Sheila, go ahead.
My first one was, and actually I don't have them, but there were a lot of them this time. Are there more than usual?
So tell me
Or
the,
at the front beginning here. I think what I did, well, it was the CJC
CJC, yeah.
and you highlighted it. And 5876. Now, is that just a summary of some of the stuff up above it, or is that?
Oh, that highlight, that just tells you the total of all the lines above it.
All right, that, except that, and so the yellow line is 65. Okay, I see that.
Yep, so like you see CJC council, and then you have
Mhm.
yellow line says set 5,800. So that just adds up all the items up above. That's a good question.
Medical exam.
Okay, medical examiner, let's see. Oh, yes, I'm there.
Before 1550. We don't have that all the time. So is that because there was some kind of a crime?
Yes, those are autopsies that we send over to Ramsey County. And yes, so what happens is there's a split cost, well, okay, I probably don't want to speak on behalf of medical examiner, but depending if it's for Eau Claire case, then it gets 100% reimbursed. But looking at this, it could be, I don't know, I should just let it go. But yeah, yes, it is for autopsies. We don't perform our autopsies. Those get outsourced and we go to Ramsey County to do those.
Mr. Barr?
On 2100, that's on page 32 on ours, environmental services grants on meat
Environmental.
processing. The ground and grounds, I don't know what that is.
Oh, you know what? I looked at that. You know what that is? That's somebody coming in and does the inspections for deer, venison. Okay, hold on a sec. That was, say that again. I'm sorry.
2100, yeah, environmental services grant, it says.
Okay, so hold on. Environmental. I don't have different pages. It's past jail, extension, past public health, right?
Under land and water, yeah.
Okay, land and water. There you go. Environmental services for, that's that 1,696, is that? No. or meat
That's one of,
processing.
there's two of them there.
Oh, yeah, right. So Zimmerman John, he's a venison. So there was he does the testing. So apparently venison meat gets donated. Yes.
Yeah, they've got to be tested.
CWD or something, yeah, I suppose.
Yes. And then you said there's another one?
Ground and ground, I don't know what ground, that's 16, yeah, the one you mentioned right underneath that one. Say-
1,696?
Yeah,
Yes, that's for well decommissioning. And we paid that to Healthy Gale or Gavley.
that's all.
No problem. Any other questions?
I have one and I don't know. Who will wanna, under, our, money we're paying Allegiance, back in healthcare. Is
That's
that, are all those amounts
Oh, yeah.
monthly or some of those catch-ups or?
Well, Jenna's here. She can answer that, or those are monthly, is as claims come in and they get paid. And I'll stick around here just in case there's,
You know, sometimes they get behind on billing.
Yes. So, the typically, yes, these are monthly costs. The lines labeled claims / medical RX that's the claims, the services that insured members are incurring, as well as pharmacy expenses. And so we actually pay that weekly. So you can see the four, actually five, that were processed in the month of February. February, right? The line that's labeled stop loss, that is actually our premium to carry stop loss insurance. So that's like that risk insurance. Yep.
Yeah.
And then Near Site Clinic, that is our membership to Reform Medicine. That is a monthly cost. We pay per member per month to provide that membership for the members on our health plan.
Okay.
And hopefully that helps answer some of those questions.
Yeah. it
Okay,
did.
perfect.
Yeah, I know that for a while we were having a little problem. We had some really monstrous amount that showed up, so it looked bad because apparently the previous months weren't included, and so also we had this monster jump and that. Okay, thank you.
Any
That's
other?
all I have. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
No,
No?
you covered the first one that I was thinking about.
Okay. All
Thank you.
right. Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Motion to approve. Okay,
I'll second.
all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving past the vouchers. Okay, here. B is approval of financial policies, capital improvements, credit card, debit management, and internal audit. And we had a written report on all four of those. Okay, and if you notice, there were no resolution numbers or anything with them at this point. This is a
Right.
draft.
No.
You want to call
so-
them, or this
no,
is final?
Yeah, so let me just give you a little bit of background. So we've been tackling policies. If you'll recall, some months back, we did a resolution for a policy on policies. Which if that's not government of governments, I'm not sure exactly what is. But that helped us to sort of put some structure around when is it a policy, when is it a work rule, when does it need to go to the county manager, when does it need to go to a committee, when does it need to go to the full county board. And so these are internal finance department policies. They probably could have technically ended with me, but we felt like it was important that you had an opportunity to see them. It's some of our first work in solidifying some of these things into written form that's outside of like ordinance. And Beata's put a lot of work into them, and we thought that it'd be important for you to see them. But they will stop here. They won't go further than that. They will be approved by the Committee on Administration as the finance arm of all
Right.
things other than budget.
There's a lot of
And
work here.
Not a word.
yes, and I had a great team to work with me and help me vet this through and ask all these questions and shoot and problem solve just to make sure we have our grounds covered. So what I gave you was a revised version of the internal audit policy. I originally what was uploaded just focused on P cards, our procurement and gift cards. And with the conversation I had with our auditors, it is evident that it will also, doing the internal audit will also pursue how we handle cash, which is the cash handling. So we also have a policy around cash handling and disbursement. So I needed to add those definitions between the two. Dispersing is how we pay for goods, and purchasing is how we go about purchasing them. So I needed to add those extra definitions there as well.
Supervisor, sorry, go ahead.
So I'm remembering the audit report. So that
Yes.
takes care of that piece in the audit report that had to do with the handling of money that they kind of talked to us about a little bit, about two people, maybe.
Yes,
Handling.
separation of duties, yes.
Does that also pertain to the fair?
Yes. Yes, it does, because it falls under so if the fair uses P cards, then they'll be subject to internal audit. If there are purchasing, spending money on, they're subject to internal audit. And they also receive money, that's also subject to that internal audit. So yes,
Can you think of anything that they would be paying out that would?
they have invoices that they pay.
Okay.
And they also receive revenue. So I am drafting a cash receipting policy. I have a laundry of them. This is just, we didn't want to overwhelm you, but there's going to be quite a bit of them coming in the near future. But we felt it was important to have a cash receipting policy on how we handle cash when it's in our possession, how we secure that cash, how do we balance and validate, make sure that what was paid is what made to the system. And then there's the cash management policy, is now that policy addresses as to how we go about spending that money now that we've made that money.
I appreciate that. I was on facilities a number of years ago and I had a real problem with how we wouldn't get a report for several months because of things that were going on. And I had, working in the athletic office at the high school and dealing with lots of money, I knew that there were different ways that you could choose.
Yes.
But then it was
So I am
Well, I'm glad to
fine,
see
right. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. I'm working with my peers as well. I've shared my original draft with our auditors. So there are multiple eyes that had reviewed this and I bounced it off. So it's not just my ideas, it's what's best practice with our auditors, our consultants, not only that, but best practice with the GFOA, which is the Government
Finance
Officers Association. Just go along. So it's been through multiple hands, and not to mention my peers here, my team and department heads to say, are we all on the same page? So my first audit it's going to be in April. So it will be on P cards. And one thing the policy kind of covers is how am I going to report that information to you? And then so it's a huge undertaking because if there's a lot of audit, talk to with our auditors and I can do spot checks, but they also will do their audit. This does not replace our audited's audit. This would just allow us to set controls, but then test them through doing samples to is our team or our employee following the policy? So the internal audit is also going to have a reporting. Well, what did the internal audit find? So for example, we pulled a sample for P cards and we are going to test for areas did it have a supporting document? Yes, it did. Well, was that supporting document justifying is that was a county business or was it just a picture of your donut you ate? Yeah, so so it's going to test for those. So in addition to this internal audit policy, we have a procedure. So in the procedure document, which I didn't bring to this table, is that's where it says what attributes are we testing. And those attributes are driven right off of the PCARD policy that you have. So if you look, the PCARD policy is
Yep.
in here
Yeah.
too?
Yep.
Right.
That is,
So the PCARD policy says, no monkey business, right? So I'm going to choose, we narrowed it down to maybe 5 or 6 that are really key component, which is it county business? Was it reconciled on time? And do all these documents match what the system says we pay? So there's some of these attributes is what we'll be testing for. And once that's done, I will provide you a report. So that'll be my first report to say, here's what it is, and it's going to be, it is what it is. We did some training on the P-cards as well. So after this policy on P-cards got implemented, we proceeded to do training with everybody in the county that has a P-card or it has their hands in it, meaning that, let me use the wrong words, but they have a task assigned that maybe been delegated to them to lead with the receipts and deal with the financial system. So we had a training for a couple of days. So that's been completed. So they know that this is coming. But the sample that's going to be pulled is going to be a little bit before we did the training, which is fine because in a sense, it's going to give us more of a baseline and hopefully we'll see if there's any room for improvement. We'll see what progress we're making.
good. Sheila.
Follow up, I just want to say that, yeah, you're a gem. I mean, you must dream numbers when you go to sleep.
It's my obsession
Yeah, I
with
can
this.
tell. I can
She
tell.
can tell you that's all it is this policy. So we've really I have amazing team that works with me. I mean, tomorrow we have a 3 or 4 hour meeting, just talk about more policies. I think it's important to have policies in place, especially when we're going into with our new ERP. When we did the ERP, some of the providers, one of the first things they asked is, what are your policies? And we knew that was our weakness. Now, going back to the audit, our auditors observed that we're not doing too good with spot checking P cards. So talked with the auditors. We talked about what we're looking at. They're blasted. They're happy with that. There's also audit finding on, separation of duties and cash reconciliation. So my team's been meeting regularly with the treasurer's office, and I've stepped up or stepped in to help them with the policy. And even our auditor said, Beata, what are you doing drafting this policy? This really falls under the treasurer's preview. But I said, I have friends in high places, such as Lynn, and we're working together. So I'm just kind of being a team here. But ultimately, that policy, it's kind of her baby. But I'm assisting with that because that cash handling really falls into that area. But we do have a cross because as a finance role is to spot check.
If I may, if
Please,
you
Chris.
would take a look at the capital improvements one,
Oh,
if you have
yeah.
that in front of you, that's probably one that where we have had a mechanism of practice and we're actually somewhat changing the practice. So we're coming up to doing our capital improvements workshop in April. The way that Dunn County defined what we put in a capital improvement plan included traditional capital improvements, building bricks and mortar, permanent purchase kinds of things, and large purchases or larger purchases over $10,000. So if I was, for instance, and I was at one point in time, if I was the DHS director and I had an extra $10,000 and or let's say $20,000, I needed to buy a new electronic medical record. I would include that in the capital improvement plan, even if I already had the money to purchase that. Maybe I'd gotten a grant or whatever to purchase that because it was over $10,000. So we did some changes to that to say it's for it's for all of those bricks and mortar, hard skills, hard stuff. And then it's for purchases over, I think we settled on 100,000
1,000.
if you don't have funding for them. So otherwise they'll be budgeted for in the regular budget, but so you still get a chance to look at them. They just won't be in our capital improvement plan. So if I'm, for instance, I'm a little office, I'm the littlest office, I am the Veteran Service Office, and I want to buy
Computer systems, some
yeah,
stuff.
some huge purchase of $125,000. I'm gonna need to put that on the capital improvement plan. If I'm going to purchase something that I have money for under $100,000, I'm gonna go out and buy it.
Yeah, we put 3 perimeters around that. It's 100,000, or there's another area, or if that's 7% of their,
Total operating budget.
Yeah.
yes. So if
Yeah,
it
that's
meets
it.
those areas, right? Because there's really, you know, in CIP too, when I started, there's still a lot of not, you know, we weren't, I actually can only speak for myself, wasn't quite clear. I would have departments come in and ask for these items, but they were for the sake of being at a dollar amount. But then we always ask the question is that really a capital improvement plan item? So we felt it was necessary to put this policy together to define what a capital improvement is and how we're going to move forward to identify and based on these tests or these, not scenarios, but criteria as to how we consistently going to put that on our CIP.
And that'll be several hours of our lives we'll never get back, all those conversations.
It was a good
But,
conversation.
and the point, part of the point is because so often capital improvements, as well as the rest of the budget, but capital improvements come down to funding, right? And we're really trying to move things out that don't require, like, we're not gonna borrow money for a $20,000 thing, whatever that thing is. It's not a generally capital purchase. And we're not gonna borrow if we borrow, or we're not gonna take from fund balance. We're gonna find another way to meet that within our general operating costs, if at all possible. It's only those things that you can't figure out another way to fund it, and it's a large purchase for your department that would actually come forward to the capital improvement planning.
Like, for example, highway. Highway has that $1.5 million of widgets, but they have a funding source. So then the question is, well, how does that fit in CIP?
Right. They put their money away each year
Right.
before for the next year to purchase their equipment. And so, so those would not then fall into a capital improvement plan because they have a funding source for them.
And I remember addressing this when squads got to be more than $10,000.
Exactly. And so those end up in our capital improvement plan. They probably will continue to because the sheriff's department doesn't have, $350,000 to buy squad cars. But as soon as we have another funding source, that should move to the sheriff's operating budget, and we should just budget for it every year. And not included in our capital improvement plan.
And I think carry forwards was also included in a packet.
Yep.
Yep.
So, no, maybe not.
No, maybe not.
Mm.
No.
No.
Capital improvements, credit cards, debt management, and internal audit.
Yeah.
Capital.
Debt management.
This morning when I was at the neighbors meeting, they talked about HVAC and how long the boilers, the things, the geothermal system would work.
Mhm.
And typically they said like 25 years. And what popped into my head is you wouldn't want to replace them all at once. And of course, their parts are happening and that kind of thing are
Mhm.
happening too. That also changes it. Is there something with regards to some of these kinds of improvements where you're planning ahead for maybe
Mhm.
doing it in tiers so that it's not happening all at once?
Yes, absolutely. As in that CIP policy, we state that even in our debt management policy, we address it in those both areas to say we're going to do planning so that we know what's ahead of us long-term, not just 1 year.
Okay.
So in CIP, it addresses that, but also in what we're going to borrow money for, we're going to make sure that whatever we borrow is going, not going to outlive the debt. Kind of.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we did that with, excuse me, with IT.
We did, an
Yeah.
IT replacement fund.
Dan said this, we set it up so that we weren't gonna replace every laptop and every copier and everything. all at once, that we were gonna do it in stages so that it could be just part of the operating budget, like you were saying, and I think
We
that-
did it, we've done it with the demolition of the buildings behind this building, where we're putting aside $25,000 a year so that ultimately we can make a choice in 5 years as to what we'd like to do. So kind
Planning,
of
yeah.
prolonging that tear down, but setting aside money to be able to do it without having to
The
fund it
one
in a
that
different way.
gets to me is that when you're planning carpets needing to be changed, and I'll look at the carpet and I say, okay, it's year 7 or whatever it is, but it looks fine. So why are we gonna replace it? And we've done that before, but I don't know if we still do that, if we will like reassess and say, well, let's put that money someplace else good another year.
Yeah, I think that happens. I mean, I think that we've done a better job of that, of looking at what needs to happen. Part of the issue, like particularly with carpets, become you have areas that have high wear and areas that don't have quite so much wear. But yeah, I think we're just trying to be good stewards and be planful and put things into the right buckets so that they don't end up funded in the wrong ways.
Any other questions for Beata? Thank you.
Yes, you can
Appreciate
read line by line and you can have questions, you know where to find me.
Well, there was one and I couldn't find it again. One of the things where there was a word R at the end of one of the statements or something, and it didn't belong there, but
Yeah, probably leftover stuff is
Yeah.
okay, I'll go take a look at it.
yeah, it just said R something, and that word was probably. but
Not
anyway,
finished.
That was the
Like,
big thing I found.
like unfinished sentence. I'll take a look
Everything,
at it.
everything else looked really good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Do we need to, would it make sense to approve at this point? I think it would.
Yes, it's
All right.
slated for that.
All right.
Make motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we had a motion made and second to approve the policies in 4 areas that have been presented to us in writing and further discussed and explained to us by our CFO and our county manager. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right,
Number 7 is the mystery resolution.
I
I have no clue why that's there.
Just
a
in case.
resolution.
Resolution, just to.
Anticipate.
Just to
It's
have a
nothing. You don't even
resolution?
need to table it. It's nothing.
Okay. Next meeting date is April 24th, 2025.
I think it's 26.
Is it? It might be. Well, be.
Is it 26th? Should be.
It's the 20.
I know there's
Well,
5.
it's, the neighbors
Wednesdays.
is it in the morning, so, yes. Oh, it's the 24th.
It is
You're right.
26th. Okay, all right. Is that good for you? I'm just gonna ask you right now. Is that good? All right, so we have at least 3 of us here. Okay. All right. If nothing else, I see nothing else on our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you
Are
all.
we off?